Help them figure what they want out of life. But you know everything it come with a price. Want to maximize your money and time. Might have to take the uncommon.
Let's dive into scale, because scale is something that a lot of people like to talk about. And we'll get into your perspective now, but let's talk about your perspective when you were scaling to a large 8-figure organization when you guys did that. Let's talk about some of the things you did, some of the things you went through, and the importance of scaling if you're going to scale right. Because a lot of people talk about how it's a buzzword, right? I want to scale. I want to build my business. I want to make more money and all that stuff. And they're looking at more in a revenue aspect than anything else, right? Because scale is a word that people associate with more money, and that's not always the case. So what are some of the lessons? Let's have a conversation or just around the concept of scale and what it really truly means to do it in a company.
Yeah, I'm a guy that done did it, you know.
Yeah.
Scaled multiple 8-figure businesses. The last one, we got to that place in 5 months. Like it was a rocket ship. And so I think with scale, if you're actually scaling, there's so many important things to know, again, that I wish I had known. I love talking about scale. I love growth. And the thing I talk a lot about now, though, is descaling. And it's all about the value system that you have. And if you want long-term scale, which I think ultimately is long-term growth, you can't just consider up. You also have to consider down, right? So if you've ever been in New York and the Trade Center, right, if you look at the new building, like how far down they went into the ground before they built this, this crazy, massive building that's like hundreds of stories. People don't have that perspective and that value system of, okay, scale isn't only up, but how do I go down? How do I build deep roots and deep foundation? And those are the things that I'm just like, oh my God, why didn't nobody tell me this? Because my value system was only up. It was only more. It was only accumulating greater because that's what we typically get the praise for. That's what we feel the accolades and maybe the profit and the money and all the things that come along with that. But I'm really interested in longevity and sustainability. And for that, you have to go down. So for me, down is the identity of the leader, right? Who they see themselves as, the value system of the leader, but also organizationally. If you don't have an organizational identity and value system, there's a very good chance that you will not last, that the thing will topple over. Because if you have the right identity, right value system, then you won't turn up when you shouldn't turn up. And so those are things I think that are really, really important in scaling from a long-term perspective. And so now I think there's so much value in descaling. And for me, descaling is a process of sometimes turning down, but also honoring plateaus in your business so that you can make sure that the infrastructure is good, that your processes are good, that your people are good, that you're diversified, that you are considering the risk, that you are considering the downside. Because what we would always look for is hitting a higher high, right? That was like, oh, dude, maybe we did $1 million this month. That's not enough. Like we had to do $1.1 million, $1.2 million, $1.3 million. And I think a part of where that comes from is this crazy thing that we as entrepreneurs have. And I think this is why identity is so important, because we're always looking for something. We're looking for satisfaction, right? We're looking for achievement, accolades, all those things, oftentimes from a broken identity. So for me, when I got into the business and it's like, man, if I could do $100,000 a month, oh my God, I'm gonna be the man, right? Like I'm gonna feel this thing that I've been looking for. Dude, our first full-time month of business, we did 127. And that elation was like 5 minutes. Then it was like a crash. What the heck? So I was like, well, it must be 200 a month. No, it must be 5, like just never getting to that place. And there's this thing actually called arrival fallacy, where we think that, oh, if I hit that level, if I accumulate that thing, if I get that new car, that new house, I will have finally arrived. And it never actually is the case. So when you operate from that place and you think that, oh yeah, I value this number or this number of employees, that's gonna be the thing that finally gives me that thing I've been looking for, it never happens.
That's why so many entrepreneurs experience depression,
Yes.
right? Because we go through these processes where we think we're going to feel successful. There's that mountain that we're trying to get to the top of, and then we get to it and we realize that was just a foothill, and the next mountain we're climbing, right?
Yeah.
And we get to that and we're like, oh, we're still not at the top of the mountain because we reach it and we don't have that feeling. I've been through it where I've reached goals and I don't have that like feeling of excitement or gratitude, or sometimes, unfortunately, of, wow, I made it, I did it, this is what I wanted to accomplish. It's like, it's more of next. That didn't feel how, like you just said, it didn't feel how I thought. I'm not where I want to be. What's next? And you see a lot of entrepreneurs that end up going through that route, and it's like accumulating more and more and more and more. So I want to step back. You mentioned a thing on if you don't have the foundation of your value system in place, can you give me an example of that?
Yeah. So, for example, my value system was higher highs, it was speed, right? Always going fast versus valuing slow and steady, right? And that being what we adhere to, that being what we made decisions based on. And I think if we would have valued slow and steady, right? Valued long-term longevity, valued lifetime value of clients versus just our ability to acquire clients, then our decision making would have been a lot different, right? We wouldn't have been concerned of, oh, we just have to hit a new level this month and next month, and but things that are really important and the things that keep businesses around for a long time. So that's why I consider, a part of a healthy value system are the things that maybe they're not sex appeal, right? But they're really important and they bring longevity and health. And it's just something that we just missed, man. We didn't have. Like, everybody has a value system. Every business has a value system. Oftentimes it's not an intention that people make. It's just something that comes from how we grew up, or, what we watch some dude on YouTube, like all these things that we see that, because that seems cool, right? We elevate it. We give value to that thing, whether it's the speed of our company, the speed of our growth, the cars, the things that we have that are seen, that people can actually praise you for, right? What are the unseen things that aren't necessarily sexy, but that are really healthy? And that's what I didn't have that. I wasn't intentional about it.
Which you're saying it was unhealthy. How did that, when you were so focused and your value system was speed and growth, how did that impact I know you're a big family guy, right? You're a big family man. One of the reasons you and I get along so well, right? And how did that impact your family?
So I've always been a pretty present father. Like, I've always been around. I would try to be intentional to not be gone long out of town. So my presence was always there, but my state was not always good. And what I mean by that is I would be around, but I wasn't actually in a good place mentally or emotionally, because I was anxious about, man, are we going to hit this goal this month? And so I would maybe be short-tempered or just didn't know how to process through that. And so carrying anxiety and carrying maybe guilt or shame or those emotions, your family feels that, right? And that can become your culture in your house. And I think that's something that I didn't have an awareness on. And so my thing and how I grew the business, I think I grew up from a place of insecurity, emotional insecurity, financial insecurity, and a lack of self-worth. And so, like, your kids pick up on that stuff. And so what I've seen from my kids are some of the same patterns, where they might want to operate at a place to do things to earn love, do things to earn worth, right? Self-worth. And that's not always inherently bad. Like, there is some utility to that, but those kinds of things, I don't think it's good to train our kids in, right? Because my kids don't have to earn my love. They don't have to earn worth. They're like, inherently, they are that thing. They are loved. They are worthy, right? But when I look back in my childhood, these are things that I developed, and that's why I became ambitious, right? And because I wanted to earn something that I felt like I didn't have. And so I think that's where my state was as an entrepreneur, dad. Love my kids to death, but I didn't have a deep awareness on that level, and you know, when you move at such a pace and such a speed, intention can easily go out the window. Awareness can easily go out the window. And I think as for entrepreneurs, this is one of the most important things, because we are dangerous in such a great way. We can also be dangerous in a bad way, right? And this is why I think you see so many marriages break up and families, like their kids hate their parents, you know, who are entrepreneurs. I think a lot of this is because they don't hold a place with patience and joy, and kids don't have to perform to earn something from their parents. It's just, you know, it's just who they are, and so that's a given. And parents being at a place, entrepreneur parents specifically, a healthy place to have that overflow to give to their spouses and their kids.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, that's huge, man. Thank you for that. But in regards to, let's go back to descaling a little bit. You touched on it, but let's break it down.
Okay.
We talk scaling, but let's break down descaling.
Descaling is hard.
Well, give us the 35-minute version. No, just kidding. So let's talk a little bit about descaling, and because I know that's when you dropped that term earlier, there's probably people watching and listening going, "What the heck does that mean?" Right. So I know you talked the importance of descaling and how you're focused on it, but let's talk a little bit about some of those core factors of it.
Yeah, something I've had to learn as we just went up. But you look at so many businesses, they might go up, but oftentimes there will be a decline, or there will be a plateau. I know for our online space, nobody ever talks about that because nobody values that, right? You only value up, especially, dude, if you got a hockey stick, you're the man or you're the woman. But it's just not natural law. Healthy things are pruned. And I think it's very easy, especially when you're scaling, and even more so when you're scaling fast, that there's going to be bloats, and you're going to add things onto the business that aren't really actually contributing to the value of the business and for the clients and for the marketplace. So it's very important, I think, to have seasons of descale when you actually are aware of the business. Okay, where are we going? What does it look like? What's the vision? And then you audit to the business. You audit the processes. You audit the things that you're paying for. You audit the people. You audit all the contributions to the business. What's working? What's bringing a lot of contribution? What's not? And for me, descaling is essentially taking a step back and maybe pulling back, because when you look at growing a business, to grow a business in a healthy way, you should always have capacity. Mm-hmm. And I talk about floors and ceilings and business growth and stuff. Oftentimes we try to scale and grow a business just because that's what you're supposed to do, versus scaling and growing a business from a place of power. So in my mind, descaling, maybe turning back, taking a step back, puts you in a place of capacity, right? Gives you room and margin. And that could be very practically like, okay, like this person's not working out. Can we put them on a process improvement plan? Or maybe there's not the right person to be on this bus. And so maybe having that conversation with that person, or maybe multiple people, to free up a seat for someone else, or just freeing up capital, and having that audit, that process to turn the business down. And I think when I've had this conversation, I've coached people through it, it brings a sense of relief. When you can actually say, you know what, not only do you not have to turn the business up right now, you can actually turn the business down. There, by default, oftentimes is immediate margin. And I think we have such a problem right now in today's day and age, and everybody feels this. Everybody that's listening to this right now, they feel it. It's a lack of margin. So descaling, the idea of it, the theory behind it, is very quickly getting margin so that you can reassess, okay, what's the map? Where am I at? What's the territory? What's the journey? And how can I gain power, gain strength, gain margin for the next leg of the journey? And so that's the idea, the concept of it. And it could be spending less money on teams, spending less money on software, just auditing like what you have going on in the business, getting a very good handle on it, and identifying what's necessity versus what's not. And for us, man, especially growing so fast, so easy to add things on that don't really contribute much to the business. You just got money going out, resources going out, and people don't take that consideration. And it's interesting the value that people attach to even having a team. and I've had this conversation with the clients where they could not have any team and still have a great business and make just as much money, but they keep the team just because they value having numbers. Like there's something there that they're able to boast about, is having a team.
Yeah.
Right. It's not the actual people. It's just having like bodies.
And saying a bigger number.
Saying a big number.
Someone asks you how many people work for you, because that's
100%.
a completely irrelevant question.
It really is. Yeah. It's all about potency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We went through, you and I were just having lunch and talking about how I just went through a pruning season. Mm-hmm. Right. And we tend to do it in business. I never really looked at it that way, like until you mentioned it, but it's true. I mean, we were cranking and things were scaling really, really fast for us. So we were growing, and it was always like, how do we get to the next number? And then part of one of the industries we're in the media side was starting to dip.
Yeah.
But I had hired and built our infrastructure as if we were already at 2 levels up where we were, right? Because my plan was to go there. And I kept them around for an extra 9 to 12 months than they probably needed to be, realizing, instead of just saying, hey, look, we're not going there right now. The market isn't there. Yeah. The market will be there, but it's not there. And instead of pruning and giving those people opportunities to go elsewhere, I held on to them longer than we probably should have. And we also were paying, we sent a lot of men's emails, and our email volume, we had started signing contracts to pay more than what we were sending.
Yeah.
And so I said to prune all that stuff just to improve profitability, but we also function much better as a team now, doing the exact same thing as we had with all those same people.
Yeah.
So and it's less stress because you're not worried about, oh man, I don't have anything for this person to do. Like, at least myself over the years, when I've had someone that's working with me and I don't have enough stuff for them to do, it's one of two things. It's like, one, I don't want them to go to, but then I start getting resentful because they're not doing enough to get paid, right? And so I think you create these, fights inside your head and these emotions that you don't need to have if you just descale.
Yeah, and there is a vision aspect of it, right? So vision for me is 3-dimensional. And I think you need to know what scale looks like 3-dimensionally. And so that means, where are we going? Who's involved? What are the processes? What are the products? But also, I think there's a process of descaling what that looks like. So let's say if I'm at $500,000 a month, I should have very clear vision on what that looks like, how I'm going to get there, the people that are needed to get there. But also, what does it look like if I need to be at 300 a month, right? And maybe there's things going on with the economy and things are crazy, and there's just not the momentum there that there has been. Mm-hmm. What does that look like? And I think oftentimes, since we only look at the upside and where we're going, we don't consider that. And even having rules and processes in place, and even triggers of, okay, when does it make sense for us to actually turn down, right? And to maybe pull back a little bit, gather the troops, so to speak, and get ourselves in a place of power, and maybe stack some more money, and just be smart and wise and good stewards of the resources that we do have. So when the opportunity does present itself, that we can turn back up. Mm-hmm. And I was having a conversation with a client, an equity client the other day, even about plateauing. And there's so much value in plateauing in a business, because it gives you the ability to really focus on things that, again, are under the hood. They're maybe under the surface. It's not the sexy things, but it's processes, systems, making sure that we have the right culture, the right things in place, so that when the wind's there, we put the sails up and we go, right? Mm-hmm. But it's going to be good. It's going to be healthy. And we're going to be at a place where we have margin to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, it's going to be a lot for these people to take in.
No, I'm sorry.
So since you've descaled and you've gone through this process of the moving over into more of a board member for companies to help them choose their right path, build their values, value systems, determine whether the plateau is the right right spot for them right now. How has that impacted your family going forward? You're in 2 different spaces. I asked this so for our viewers, like you and I have known each other for years.
Yeah.
And I asked this in a place because I know there's a difference.
Yeah.
Right. So how has that impacted?
Well, I think for me, there is less responsibility, right? I'm not carrying the thing. I'm just advising about the thing that the dude's mm-hmm. carrying, right? Yeah. So I think there's less stress from that point of view. I just don't have that weight that a CEO typically carries. So that's been really positive and beneficial. The other aspect too, and this is maybe another podcast episode, but I think oftentimes we can get a place where we're doing the things that we're not good at, that we don't even like as CEOs. And so being at this place where I'm more a chairman slash board member, I can be in my zone, my genius place. And it gives me more energy, right? It gives me the ability to even be in a better place at home, with my wife and with my kids. And I'm not worrying about things that I'm not even good at, but I'm just forcing it, or I just feel like I have to do it, right? And so there's a lot of benefits in that. And I think ultimately, it gives me more leverage too. I think when you're in that place, especially doing things that you're good at, it's a sweet spot. It means there's more opportunity. Again, it's a capacity thing, because we underestimate the amount of energy expenditure we put on doing the things that we don't like doing and that we're not good at. And so for me, being able to stay in that place and being flexible and not having to be on Zoom meetings all day, every day, it's a good thing. So I'm excited about it.
Oh, I can do it. I'm anti-meeting, but more and more we've been having more meetings. But I've heard of people that spend their entire 8 hours in an office in meetings all day.
I've done that.
Tell these guys, I'm like, I don't know how you do it, man. If the max I'm willing to give to meetings in a day is 2 hours.
Yeah.
And even then, it's usually those can be done in 60 minutes. So
it's easy to fall into it, man, especially when you have a big business and ours kind of turned more corporate.
Yeah.
So, but man, it's important to have the rules, man, and the disciplines and the boundaries as a leader. That's a huge topic.
Oh yeah.
So we don't typically have.
Yeah, boundaries are important, I think. So what's crazy to me? I was reflecting before we started talking in here, and I'm like, you know what? You and I have lived in Charlotte, both for a long time.
Yeah.
The first time we hung out, we lived right down the street from each other. First time we hung out,
I don't remember.
Utah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Golly. Yeah.
When I joined Upper Echelon, right? In Utah, and then the next time we hung out, San Diego. I'm like, we spent all this time like in the same city, and then we didn't hang out until I moved. The first time we hung out in Charlotte,
yeah, you were in California.
I flew in from San Diego. It's kind of funny. It's kind of wild, but I'm glad you're back, or I'm glad I'm back, and I'm glad we're spending more time together and growing. And with that said, 2 things for you. What is something? I got 2 questions. One is, what is one piece of uncommon advice that you would give our listeners today to help them succeed at a higher level?
Slow down. Slow down. Yeah, we live such a crazy. Again, it's something that the marketplace values is speed, and a crazy pace. And again, this is why people I think are really anxious and depressed, is because what we do is we look on social, we look online, we look at all these gurus on YouTube, and we see what they have, and so we feel like we're behind, and so we accelerate, and we fill our lives with so much. Versus valuing what we have in front of us right now and actually appreciating the amazing things, our families, a nice cup of espresso, a great book, and the actual work, the things that we should love and enjoy as entrepreneurs, because we get to create. And like, what if you didn't have to achieve this crazy goal that you've made up in the next 3 months? What if it was 12 months or 15 or 18 or 24? But it's again this thing that we feel like, man, I need to speed up. I need to hurry up so I can get to this thing because I'm going to feel that thing when I get to that thing. It's BS, man. But what if I found joy today in what I get to create and the people I get to work with and the love and service that I bring to the marketplace? Like I'm telling you, dude, like I know these gurus, the guys that all these people talk about, and they don't have that thing. They're still chasing that thing. But I think what's available is finding that today in your life, and eliminating hurry from your life, I think, is extremely valuable. And that's what I've had the blessing to do in the last year. Some by choice, some not, and it's been extremely valuable. It's difficult because my personality, so many years of like, dude, I do not like waiting in line. I don't like driving behind someone slow. It's always been push, push, push. But there is something powerful and amazing in the ability to actually go the speed limit, right? And actually wait in line, and maybe not turn your business up to level 10. So yeah, slow down.
Absolutely. That's huge, man. That's great. It's very uncommon.
Very uncommon. Yep.
So next thing is, I know that you've got your newsletter and you've got some podcast stuff you're doing. You've got your, you know, your group, your mastermind group.
Yeah.
Like, what's the best way people get to follow you, get a hold of you? Can you learn more about you?
Yeah. So if you go to chrisaevans.com/newsletter, I'm writing weekly on a lot of these topics.
Chris A. Evans?
Chris A. Evans.
All right.
Yep. .com/newsletter. So yeah, my weekly kind of just thoughts on scaling, descaling, growth, all the above. Just taking the wisdom that I've gained and putting it into that free newsletter. So that's probably the best way. I'm on Facebook, you know.
Sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. You see my mug on there. Easy to reach on there. But yeah, open if anybody needs help.
Awesome. Man, I really appreciate you jumping in here with me.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, listen to this, might have to take the uncommon advice.